So most of this chapter has been about the video API, which, as we know, and we've had a look at the prototype of this, actually inherits from a media element. Now, this media element is also shared with an audio element. So regardless of whether we're using video or audio, APIs are essentially exactly the same. So if we were to comment out our actual video, you can see that nothing is in fact loading here. We can above start to experiment slightly with our audio. Now, much like HTML5 video, the audio itself can have a source attribute. However, as we know, we might want to specify multiple sources and therefore multiple file formats. Now, before we get into this, let's copy what we have below, but essentially change it from video with a class of media and controls to audio with a class of media and controls. Now, much like our video, we can specify a fallback if the browser in use does not support HTML5 audio. Similarly, we can also supply a source. Now, instead of using our Autumn MP4, we're going to include an MP3. So let's bind a source attribute. For this, we're going to use an MP3, which has a type of audio/MPEG. Now, our MP4 is up top, so what we want to do is just import the MP3. So this is going to be just the audio. Now, I've made this one slightly longer, and I've overlaid some of the audio onto our video. So essentially, these audio tracks are the same. One is just 5 minutes and 11 seconds long, and one is our 10-second video that we have. So let's bind our Autumn MP3 and save things out. Now, what I'm going to do actually is remove our media class. I'm going to save this out, and I'm going to hit save. We can then start playing. We can adjust the volume. We can look at download buttons. We can scrub. We can stop and start. And this gives us a nice UI for our audio. Now, the interesting piece is this controls piece. So if you do not want to display this automatically generated UI, you can see that we have a stop button. Obviously, we can't full screen audio because it's not a visual element. But if we were to go ahead and remove this controls, our audio completely disappears. If we add our class of media back, much like we have with our video class of media, we can save this out. And I don't know if you saw, but our times all came back. So underneath, all of the APIs are in fact the same, apart from picture-in-picture and some video-related APIs. Our media is now actually pointing to our audio object because we're actually hiding our video class. So our UI that we've built throughout the last chapter, we can start playing, and all of the functionality that we've built, such as skipping forward, the volume, muting, unmuting, and of course, pressing stop, all of those APIs are identical. So this is really, really nice for us. So I guess the moral of the story is if you'd like an audio element just given to you with no UI customization, no CSS tweaks that you want to make, straight out of the box from the browser. And of course, remember that each browser will look slightly different. This is a browser implementation. So by taking this chapter, we've now learned how to build every single element ourselves. And you can see as we edit ours, the HTML5 video above is also staying in sync. Of course, if we go ahead and remove our controls, we can then see just our own custom audio object. So this was a nice little introduction to using this audio. We can, of course, remove our controls, and essentially our audio acts as a completely invisible element. So interestingly enough, if we open up our DevTools, we can click on audio. You can see that these are the user agent style sheets. So that means that these are essentially default styles that are shipped with the browser. And you can see audio element, when it does not have any controls attributes, then we want to simply display none. So the browser here is actually keeping things nice and invisible for us. Now in the next lesson, we're going to look at this audio constructor because we don't actually need to use this audio element if we want. We can just use plain old JavaScript if we'd like. So that's it for this lesson. I hope this showed you the power of these media APIs and how the APIs are very similar to each other. As I said, you can have multiple sources, different file formats for different browsers if you like. And by using that same class, we're essentially reusing all of our APIs exactly the same. However, don't forget that some things like our picture-in-picture are of course going to error because request picture-in-picture is not a function on our audio object. So keep in mind a few differences if you want to reuse some of these different components. So that's it for this video. Let's dive into the next one.